All right, here we go, everybody. Here's the next one up. So, as always, the first thing we would like to do, that we should aim to do, is reading the question first, the question sentence specifically. So, when we read this through, we see that it says, what fraction of a cup of juice remains in the pitcher? So, just like some of these previous questions that we've been doing, everyone, the key word remains clues to what operation again? Practice that. Yeah, that clues subtraction. Again, when we want to know how much remains, how much is left over, that is subtraction. Taking away what was lost from what we had to get how much is left. So here we go. We are going to see how much is left, but first let's read the context to be absolutely sure. Lily is preparing a juice blend for a party, and notice what I'm going to do, everyone. Anyone here who is nervous about fractions, take a moment. Read it like I'm reading it. Lily's preparing a juice blend for a party. She pours this much apple juice and this much grape juice into the pitcher. Notice that I ignored the actual numbers. I just said she has apple juice and grape juice in the pitcher, and then later she spilled some of the combined juice. Okay, so look at how this plays out. If we want to know how much we have left, well, first we need to understand that when we pour this much apple juice and grape juice together, what operation are we doing with those two fractions, everybody? The apple juice and the grape juice, when we are pouring it into a pitcher together, that is addition. Exactly. So we know that we are adding these two together, the 3/8 cup, that's apple juice, and the quarter cup, that is grape juice. And then we see that later she accidentally spills a sixth of a cup. And just like the previous question, when we spill and we're trying to find out what we have remaining, that operation is what? That operation is going to be subtraction all the way, exactly. So there we have it. We can highlight that right here. Spills a sixth of a cup. And so let's write subtraction 1/6. So before I continue, everyone, before we get into the actual calculation, is this the game plan that you had as well? Add the apple juice and grape juice together and then subtract 1/6 of a cup because that's what we spilled. Sweet. So again, if you had this laid out for yourself, you are doing a good job. You're good. Now let's move forward here and let's do the operation. And let's do it in one shot. Let's try that out. So let's zoom on in. And we want to ask ourselves, what is the least common denominator between 8, 4, and 6? What is the LCD of 8, 4, and 6? And here's how I like to do it, everybody. Here's a nice, smooth way that can help you get the least common denominator of 3 numbers at the same time. Here's my first tip. My first tip is focus on the biggest number. Focus on the biggest number. Because guess what? If you start with the lower numbers, well, the bigger number can't go into it no matter what. So let's go ahead and start with the bigger number. Everyone, quick question. Can both 4 and 6 go into 8 or not? All right, it's not going to be 8. Not going to be 8. Let me write that on the side. Not going to be 8. Okay, let's do the next multiple. Everybody, what's 8 times 2? What's that going to be? Okay, cool. Let's try 16 out. Again, basing it off of the biggest number. Everybody, can 4 go into 16? Yeah, 4 can go into 16 for sure. But can 6 go into 16? Right, it can. So because 4 can, but 6 can't, we can't use 16 as the least common denominator. Because remember, it has to work for all 3 numbers. We need all 3 to work. So let's move up to the next biggest. So 8 times 1, 8 times 2. What's 8 times 3, everybody? 8 times 3 is 24. All right, let's ask ourselves again. Can 4 go into 24? Yes, it can. Can 6 go into 24? Ah, yes, it can as well. So, my friends, do we see how we can get the least common denominator of a group of 3 numbers, relatively painless, right? Relatively painless, relatively speaking. Now, if you hate math and, this is torture to you, I understand. But with time and practice, this can absolutely feel smoother as time goes on. So we found that least common denominator that we're looking for. It is going to be 24. Let's bring our attention over here. Now that we know that the LCD is 24, let's put in that work. Everyone, what do I multiply 8 by to get 24? Yeah, that'll be 3. So I'll multiply by 3 on the top and the bottom. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 8 is 24. Don't forget the right operation, which is plus, and we'll bring that right down. Next up, everybody, what do we multiply 4 by to get 24? Yeah, that'll be 6. So I'll multiply by 6 in the numerator and denominator. So 6 times 1, that'll give us 6. And then the 24 as expected on the bottom. Again, don't forget the correct operation, subtraction right there. Everybody, what do I multiply 6 by to get 24? Yeah, that's going to be 4. 6 times 4 is 24, and 1 times 4 is 4. So now we have everything we need. Now we are good to go. We have the same denominator across all 3 fractions, and we can rest easy knowing that as long as we don't mess up adding 6 and subtracting 4, we're good. So let's get it done. 9 plus 6, that's 15. Everybody, 15 minus 4, what is that going to be? Yeah, that'll be 11. That'll be 11. 9 plus 6 gives us 15. Subtract 4, and that'll give us 11. So the correct answer here is 11 over 24. And there we go. Everybody, can we simplify 11 over 24, or should we leave it as is? Correct. We cannot simplify it because 11 is actually a prime number, and it doesn't go into 24. So there we are. We're good. We are set, and the correct answer here is A. Now, to just follow up, if you wanted to first add these 2 fractions together first, then subtract the 1 over 6, you are more than, you're in the clear. You can do that. Just know that it might take a little more time, but it still will give you the correct answer as long as you add and subtract the fractions correctly. Sweet. Right on, everybody. I'm glad that we understood. And I also want to shout out your high school and middle school teacher if they did not make it make sense like this. Now, I can't take you back in time, but I can apologize for them on behalf of all teachers in America. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward here to the next one. Let's try a different type of question. So let me go ahead and bring this up, and let's give it our best.